Hi students, welcome back to computer class. So today we are moving on to a new chapter, chapter number 8. This chapter is a continuation of chapter number 7. In chapter number 7 we have seen about Microsoft Access 2010. Okay, we have studied about various features of Microsoft Access 2010. And we have studied in that particular chapter that we can create a table in two ways. First one is datasheet view and second one is design view. Okay, what do you mean by datasheet view? In datasheet view, we have to start entering the data into the table and Microsoft Access will automatically create the structure for that particular table. Okay, that is what you mean by datasheet view. And what do you mean by design view? In design view, we need to create the structure for the table. Okay, that is the difference between datasheet view and design view. In datasheet view, Microsoft Access will automatically create the structure for the table. In design view, we users have to create the structure for the table. Okay. And these were the some of the topics that we covered in our last chapter, that is chapter number 7. Okay, so moving on to this chapter. In this chapter, we will be mainly studying how to work with these tables which are present inside Microsoft Access. Now moving on to the first topic of this chapter, let us study how to edit a table in Microsoft Access. Till now, in last chapter, we saw how to create a table in Microsoft Access. Okay, and now we are going to study how to edit a table in Microsoft Access. And editing a table means it will include selecting a primary key, setting the field properties, inserting and deleting a field, and moving a field. Okay, these are the things that we are going to study in how to edit a table. Okay, so once again, editing a table means it will include topics like selecting a primary key, how to set the field properties, how to insert and delete a field, and how to move a field. Okay, so first let us study how to select a primary key. Okay, this is the first editing method that we are going to study, that is how to select a primary key in Microsoft Access. Okay, so students, what do you mean by a primary key? A primary key, it is a database field that contains a unique value for each record in the table. This is what you mean by a primary key. Okay, it is a unique value that is present inside our table. So in your table, you can select any one of the field as a primary key. But one important thing is that the field that you select from the table, it should be a unique field. Okay, that is what you mean by primary key. Now let us see an example of what you mean by a primary key. What you see in this picture is the students record table. Okay, and in this table you can see the different fields that are being provided are enrollment number, name of the student, date of birth, course, fees paid, etc. These are some of the field names that we have included in this student record table. Okay, in this field names, we know that in a particular class, more than one student, they can share the same name. In a particular class, more than one student can have the same date of birth. Okay, and more than one student, they can share the same courses. So when you take the field names like name of the student, date of birth, course, fees paid, there can be more than one student who share this particular fields. Okay, but enrollment number, it is said to be unique for every student. Each student, they will be having a different enrollment number. Enrollment number, they cannot be same for any student. Okay, so in this particular table, we can take the field enrollment number as a primary key because enrollment number will be different or it will be unique for each student. It cannot be same for more than one student. Okay, so in this students record table, enrollment number can be taken as a primary key. This is what you mean by primary key. In a particular table, you should be able to pick up or select one field of the table as a primary key if it has got a unique value. So students, what do you mean by a primary key? It is a field, database field that is present inside a table which has got a unique value. Okay, this is what we mean by primary key. And now let us study how to select a field as a primary key. So now from this table, by looking at this table, we have seen that only enrollment number field is the only field which provides unique value or different value for each students. All other fields, they can be same for different students. Okay, so now we have chosen enrollment number as the primary key. And now let us see how to define that particular field as a primary key in Microsoft Access. For that, first step is you have to click on the enrollment number field name. Okay, and second step is you have to click on the design tab, and third step is you have to click on the primary key button. Okay, then a small icon like what you see in this picture will appear on the left side of the enrollment number field. Okay, so the presence of this small icon shows that a particular field is primary key field in that table. Okay, these are the steps that you have to follow in order to define a field as primary key. Okay, so first thing is you have to select a particular field as primary key from the by looking at that particular table. You have to find out which field provides unique value for all students, and from this table we have understood that enrollment number is the only field that provides unique value for all students. Okay, and next you have to define that particular field as primary key. For that you have to follow some steps. First step is you have to click on that particular field, then you have to click on the design tab, then you have to click on the primary key button. Once you click on the primary key button, a small key icon like what you see in this picture will appear on the left side of the enrollment number field. Okay, and that icon presence shows that that particular field is the primary key in that particular table. So this is how you can select a primary key in Microsoft Access. And students, if this picture is not clear for you, in your textbook in page number 86, you will be able to see this particular figure. Okay, figure 8.2 in page number 86. Okay. And now moving on to the next topic, let us study how to set field properties in Microsoft Access. Okay, now we can see the steps that we have to follow in order to set field properties in Microsoft Access. Students, what you see here is the design view screen of our students record table. Okay, and the bottom half part of this particular screen, it contains the fields property section. Okay, by using this section we can set more values to our field properties. Okay, so now let us see the steps that we have to follow in order to set the properties for each field. So step number 1 is you have to click on any one of the field that is present inside the student's record table. So here I have chosen the field known as fees paid. Okay, I am clicking on the field known as fees paid. That is first step number 1. After clicking on any one of the field inside this table, then you have to come on to the fields property part. Okay, the bottom half of the screen, that is known as fields property part. In the fields property section, they are being divided into two parts. One is general part and second one is lookup part. You have to click on the general tab in the fields property section. Okay, and third step is again you have to click on the format option text box. Then a small arrow will appear on the right part of that particular text box. You have to click on that drop down arrow. Then you have to select the yes or no option. Okay, after selecting the yes or no option, you have to click on the text align option text box and you have to click on the drop down arrow. Okay, then you have to select any one of the option. That is step number 5. And moving on to step number 6, after setting all the properties for this field, you have to save the table as student's record by clicking on the save button. These are the steps that you have to follow in order to set the fields property. Okay, step number 1 is you have to choose any one of the field from the students record table. Here I have chosen fees paid field. Okay, first step is to click on any one of the field inside this particular students record table. Okay, and moving on to step number 2, you have to move on to the fields property screen part. And the fields property section has been divided into two parts, general tab and lookup tab. You have to click on the general tab. Once you click on the general tab, the first option provided is format. You have to click on that format option. Then a text box will appear and a drop down arrow appears on the right side of that particular text box. You have to choose the yes or no option from that particular drop down arrow. Okay, and moving on to step number 5, again you have to click on the text align option text box, and you have to click on the drop down arrow. Many options will appear, and from that you have to select any one of the options. And now we have set the properties for all the fields, and now what you have to do is you have to save the table. Save the table as students record by clicking on the save button. Okay, these are the steps that you have to follow in order to set the field properties in Microsoft Access. And now moving on to the third editing method, let us study how to enter data in a table. Okay, now we are going to see the steps that we have to follow in order to enter data into a table. Step number 1 is you have to click on the home tab, and step number 2, you have to click on the arrow on the view button to open its drop down menu. And third step is you have to click on the data sheet view. So step number 1 is first you have to click on the home tab, and over the view button arrow is been present, you have to click on that drop down arrow. Okay, then you have to click on the data sheet view. Once you click on the data sheet view, your table will look like what you see in this figure 8.5. Okay, now you can enter the data to this particular table, and finally your table will look like what you see in this figure 8.6. okay, figure 8.6 shows how your table will look like after the data is been entered. Okay, so these are the steps that you have to follow in order to enter data into a table. First step is you have to click on the home tab, then you have to click on the view button. A drop down arrow will be present. You have to click on that arrow over that view button. There are many options provided, and the first option given is data sheet view. You have to click on that option data sheet view. Once you click on the option data sheet view, your table will look like what you see in the figure 8.5, and now you can enter data into this particular table. And finally your table will look like figure 8.6 after how the data is being entered into a table. Okay, after entering the data into the table, your table will look like what you see in this figure 8.6. Okay, these are the steps that you have to follow in order to enter data into a table in Microsoft Access. And if you want to refer this picture in your textbook, take page number 88. You can see the figure 8.5 and 8.6. Okay, and you can see how the data is being entered into that particular table. And now moving on to the next editing method, let us study how to insert a new field in table. Okay, so there are some steps that you have to follow. Step number 1 is you have to open the table in design view. Step number 2, click on the field before which the new field is to be added. And step number 3, you have to click on the design tab. Then you have to click on the insert rows. A new field will be inserted, and you have to enter the field name and select the data type. And step number 5, you have to save the table. Okay, so these are the steps that you follow in order to insert a new field into the table. Students, step number 1 is you have to open the table in design view, like what you see in this figure 8.7a. okay, this particular table, students record table, is been opened in design view. Okay, that is what you see in figure 8.7a. Second step is you have to click on the field before which you have to insert the new field. Here I want to insert the new field before the fees paid. Okay, so I am selecting the field before the fees paid field. And third step is you have to click on the design tab. Once you click on the design tab, you have to click on the insert rows. After clicking on the option insert rows, a new field will be inserted before the fees paid field. Okay, now you can enter the field name and you can select the data type. And last step is you have to save the table. These are the steps that you have to follow in order to insert a new field in a table. And now moving on to the fourth type of editing method, let us study how to delete a field. Now we have seen how to insert a new field into the table, and now let us see how to delete a field from a table. First step is you have to open the table in design view. Second step is you have to click on the row that is to be deleted. Third step is you have to click on the design tab and then you have to click on the delete rows button. Okay, then a confirmation dialog box will appear and you have to click on the yes button in order to delete the selected field. Okay, these are the steps that you have to follow in order to delete a particular field from the table. So once again students, in order to delete a field from the table, number 1 is you have to open the table in design view. Step number 2, you have to click on the row that is to be deleted. Here I want to delete the field that is known as fees paid. Okay, so I am clicking on the field fees paid. Step number 3 is you have to click on the design tab. In design tab there is a button known as delete rows button. You have to click on that delete rows button. Then a confirmation dialog box will appear. You have to click on the yes button in order to delete the selected field. Okay, these are the steps that you have to follow in order to delete a field from table. And now moving on to the last editing method, let us study how to move a field from one position to another. Okay, so moving a field means to rearrange the order of that particular fields. Okay, so for that, first step is you have to open the particular table in design view and you have to click on the record selector of the field name in order to select the entire field. Okay, and second step is again you have to click on the record selector of the field name of the selected field, and without releasing the mouse button you have to drag the mouse up and down in order to move the selected field. Okay, third step is the field is moved to the new place, and fourth step is a thick black line will appear as you move the mouse in order to show the desired location. You have to release the mouse button to move the field to the new place. Okay students, these are the steps that you have to follow in order to move a field. Okay, first step is you have to open the table in design view. Then in order to select the entire field, you have to click on the record selector of that particular field name. Okay, and second step is once again you have to click on the record selector of the field name. And without releasing the mouse button, you have to drag the mouse up and down in order to move that particular selected field. Okay, so now the field is being moved to the new position, and now a thick black line will appear as you move the mouse to show the desired location, and you have to release the mouse button in order to move that field to the new place. These are the steps that you have to follow in order to move a field. So students, these are the different editing methods that we can do inside a table in Microsoft Access. First one is how to select a primary key. Then we have studied how to select the field properties. Then we saw how to insert a new field, how to delete a field, and at last we saw how to move a field. Okay, these are some of the editing tools that we can do inside a table in Microsoft Access. So with this students, I am ending my class today. So after watching this video, you have to take textbook in page number 85. you will be able to see chapter number 8, and you have to read the topics that I have taught you today. Thank you.